Hi, and welcome to the Purple Hummingbird podcast. My name is Christina, and this is Corey. Corey,
Hey
why don't you
everybody.
introduce yourself for us?
So my name is Corey. I'm an addict, alcoholic, I'm a liar, I'm a cheat, and I'm a thief. Uh, I've been in recovery since September the 11th, 2013.
Wow.
So a little bit about my background for me. I grew up in a middle class family. Both my parents worked full-time jobs. The oldest of four. And I think for me, um, I started using probably grade 8, grade 9, trying to fit in, trying to find the crowd that I kind of belonged to.
Yeah.
Um, I was smaller when I was in high school and kind of nerdy, so I didn't really fit in with anybody. And I was smart, so like, you know what I mean? You kind of get bullied and picked on when you're that guy. I wasn't as big as I am now, so like, you know, I didn't have the weight behind me either, so I couldn't really defend myself against the bigger kids that were there because you're grade 8 to grade 12. So you're kind of stuck, especially in small towns. So I am from Pembroke, grew up in Ottawa Valley and been in that area pretty much my whole life. Um, and then you know, started with cigarettes and then alcohol and then went to marijuana. And then as I found out quickly that it was easier to bring the drugs to other people and get friends that way than it was to be using them. So I kind of did both, you know, as I sold it to other people, I got more friends, and as I got more friends, I used it with my other friends, and just kind of built my little empire that way, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're that age, it's fun. Like, you know, you don't feel like you're hurting yourself. You don't feel like you're hurting anybody. You don't really feel like you're doing anything wrong. You're just out to have fun. But you know, it was fun for a while, for a long while, up until about 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, and I'm using some pretty heavy drugs. I'm into cocaine, I'm into ecstasy. Um, and by this time, I've got a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of friends. Most of them I don't even know.
Yeah.
And they're just there to, you know, come get my stuff. And I'm just like, oh God, now what have I done? And after that, well, you don't want to say no because you don't want to be the guy that turns your friends away, right? So like you get yourself in trouble pretty quickly, pretty fast. And yeah, before I knew it, it was like too late. It was already gone, and I couldn't stop. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't stop, and it was like I was just dependent on it at that point. I had stopped drinking, but I was using a lot of drugs, um, dangerous amounts. So I think by the time I was 25, I had my first heart attack, which was
Wow.
induced by cocaine.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was
And that's
called
even too.
pericarditis. So
Yeah.
it's fluid buildup over top of the heart, which
Okay.
constricts
Wow.
like your heart itself. And the doctor comes in to looks at me and is like, "So how much drugs do you do?" I'm just like, "Well, you know, I use a little bit here and there on the weekends." And he's just laughing at me.
He's like,
He's
no, you
like,
don't.
"No, you don't. Like, come on, you like, you know, level with me here, buddy. Like,
Yeah.
come
Let's be
that's just the
real.
spirit, right?"
Yeah.
But he's like, no, like seriously, you've got to stop or you're gonna die. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't think it was that bad, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, whatever, should be good. Like, you know, I'm 25 and bulletproof, right? Nothing can stop me. What do you mean? I'm gonna die. Um, and that's like kind of when my addiction came in front of my parents, and they started to see like I really had a problem because I was really good at hiding things at that point. So they didn't really know like I had that bad of a problem. So they're like, well, you need to get help, you need to go to treatment, and I'm like, okay, yeah, right, sure, right, um I'm like, fine, I'll go to treatment. And I went to a treatment center in North Bay for the first time when I was 26. It's this 30-day program. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, well, 30 days, it shouldn't be so bad, right? And go do my 28 days, and I didn't even make it through the 28 days staying sober, but I managed to fool them for 28 days.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
right? I'm like, wow, I just learned how to be a worse criminal here. This is awesome. Like, I can do this again.
I know the loopholes right
Yeah,
now.
right?
Yeah.
I just got to do that. So I went and, got everybody off my back for the 28 days and tried to pull it back together and went about my life and started to socially drink and use again, slowly but surely, right? And as my addiction crept back in, uh, I do what every other addict does, and I start a relationship. It's just to make it more interesting,
Throw that into the
right? Just
mix.
to make it awesome. And I met this girl. Her and I used together, and when we used together, we were like oil and water. We got along really well.
Yes, of course. They mix so
All right.
well.
But no, there were good parts of the relationship, and um, but a lot of the substance use was really bad. I did not treat her very well. I was abusive. Um, I did a lot of things to that girl that I would not want somebody to do to my daughter, to my sister, to anyone like that. So, God forgive me for that. And I've asked for forgiveness for that one because it was wrong. It just wasn't okay. And yeah, so we were together, I think maybe a week before I found out she was pregnant with my first daughter.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, good. Now we're really in it, right? Like now we're smoking crack and like pregnant and drinking every day, and like I'm really out of control, right? I've got her to think of, me to think of, a baby to think of, and like no job, a part-time job that I'm like kind of doing, kind of not doing, and then dealing drugs at the same time. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like I'm working full time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm like, oh, should be interesting. Um, and then she didn't want to stop using. She wanted to abort the baby. And I was like, no. um, so there were some complications in that pregnancy. My first daughter was born premature at 33 or 34 weeks. She was 3 pounds, 12 ounces, and like fit her in the little palm of your hand. And then she sat in the NICU for about a week while she gained weight and was able to come home. And then, I just carried on about my business and kept things going. Not so well, of course, right? And then soon I found myself getting carried out by police for being abusive, being loud, being drunk. Um, and vice versa, her being drunk and us getting in fights and yelling and screaming and having neighbors call the cops and all this nonsense. And CAS apprehended our first daughter from us. So we both had to go to treatment again, the 28-day cure, just to get everybody off of our back, right? And started going to meetings and faking it to make it, and then never really paid much attention to anything anybody was saying in any of those meetings, and never really took it to heart. And I was just like, yeah, yeah, sure, right, good, okay, can I go now?
Yeah, just
Right,
kind of
like
going through the motions just
just
to get
just there,
out.
right? Not long after that, I think our daughter was 4 or 5 months old, and she was pregnant with our second daughter. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like when does this stop?
Yeah.
Right?
What did we
It's like, what do
do?
we do? And my addiction just kept getting worse. Like it did not get better. I was like, we went from crack to opiates. So now we're on oxys, and like we're using ridiculous amounts of oxys, and you know what I mean? Like I've got a house that her parents had put a down payment on. I've got to pay a mortgage. I've got to pay bills. So like I'm like really knee deep in like, trying to sell dope and work at the same time just to keep this house afloat. And I'm like drowning
Hmm.
because she's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's just me. So I'm like, okay, well, you take care of the business.
Hmm.
I'm going to go to work.
Yeah.
Like I make actual money.
Yeah.
So, that worked for a while. Like I say, the constant substance abuse in the relationship caused numerous problems between us. Neither one of us were really faithful to each other, which caused more problems. Excuse me. And yeah, in the summer of 2010, I think it was June or July of 2010, one of my best friends that I had, supplied all his dope to, and had him branched out working for me and trusted him with everything, and started hearing rumors that he was, sleeping with my wife, because that's who she was at the time, because I wasn't with anyone else. And then I was like, no, that's, these are all crazy.
Hmm.
And I came home after being out at my dealer's house all night, come home drunk and intoxicated, high on coke, and I saw his shoes in the doorway. So I kicked the door in, and then, yeah, assaulted her, assaulted him. Didn't recognize my kids were home, and yeah, had the cops come, and went to jail for that one. So I got arrested, charged with assault, domestic violence, the whole 9 yards. I plead out, take the plea on simple assault, and I don't end up with the domestic charge, thank gosh, and having to pay for the door that I kicked in. So that's my first actual involvement with the criminal justice system at 30 years old.
Wow.
And it really, that was like the real start of the spiral downward for me. It just got worse and worse and worse from there, because I wasn't allowed to see her, wasn't allowed to see the kids, had to not be at that address and all this other stuff, right? So all of my money, all of my things, everything's there. I've got
Hmm.
like 50K tied up in this house.
Hmm.
I'm like, what do you mean? I
Yeah.
can't go. Where do I
You're
go?
like, but it's mine.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like, but her parents don't think that I've paid for any of it. Like they think she's paid for all of it. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like I've literally given every dollar here.
Yeah.
Nope. Okay. Like, so I'm like, all right. So I try to start to visit my kids through CAS because they were involved, because neighbors called the cops, and so here we are again, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah. Back to square
back to
one.
square one, right? And it was easier to give up. It was easier to give up a lot of times. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to fight back. So a lot of times I just gave in to my addiction. It's just like, frig it. I don't want to fight anymore.
Yeah.
So I'd stop seeing them and just go use, right? And then go on benders for like 6 or 8 months and disappear and be like, come back. Oh, hey, like I'm back. Let's start again. And I did that on and off for like 3 years. Got sober for a bit, come back, fall off for another 10 months, come back. And it got really bad. Like, I started using IV, so intravenous needles, at whew, end of 2012, beginning of 2013. It's probably good 6 or 8 months. Solid, everyday IV use. And at this point, I'm shooting fentanyl. Patches, of course. There was no powder then. I was somebody I didn't know. Like, I'd turn my girlfriend into a prostitute. That's how we were making money. Like, I was working at a gas station that I tried to rob. I did rob it and try to rob it. I robbed it and then blamed it on somebody else. Sorry. Um, but all that for drugs, like to feed my addiction. It was just like this ridiculous nonsense. And then that was like my last straw in 2013 was when I went to jail that time because I had robbed the gas station, went on a boosting spree, just committed a bunch of stupid little petty crime in order to feed my drug habit so that I could use. And that was like my fourth time in jail. So I had been arrested for criminal harassment, arrested for theft under, arrested for the assault, and then this time was for the theft under for stealing from the gas station, and then theft under from boosting TVs.
Wow.
All to just like, keep going and not stop and not be sick, right? Because at that point, that's what you're doing. You're maintaining not to be sick anymore. You just don't want to feel that sickness. You don't want to, go through the pain.
Yeah.
And you'll do anything for it. And it's like, yeah.
Seeing that as like a firsthand thing too, even with my sister, like the withdrawal symptoms of things and not being able to have that like substance because fentanyl was one of those things that she did use. And definitely
it was not fun, like, at all.
It changes somebody completely and who they really aren't,
Yeah.
And when they are, like, who you were sober, essentially, in a way, and like, or your family knew that too as well.
Yeah.
And it's like being able to see that perspective of somebody, even if they are sick through that, and knowing that there is that possibility they can get better too, is probably a world of help.
Yeah. And then the last time when I went to jail in 2013, I was like, what am I doing? Like, do I really want to do this? Like, go to jail and like get back out and start over again and like go do that on repeat? Like, what are my daughters gonna say when they're like, when the kids go around the classroom, like, what does your dad do? Well, my dad's a junkie and he's in jail. Like, how much fun is that gonna be?
That's not fun.
Right? I'm like, oh my God, I'm that guy? What? How did I get here?
Our parents warned us about these people.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. But I was. I was that guy. And I'm like, wow, my kids are going to be ashamed of me. Like, this is brutal. Like, I've got to get my crap together. And like, this was like it for my parents, right? Because I had been to treatment 3 times and tried to go to meetings on my own twice. Like, you know what I mean? So like, I'd already been on it for a bit. Trying to get sober on my own. And they're like, well, you need long-term treatment. Like, there's, you know what I mean? Like, you've got a different type of sickness. I don't know what's wrong with you, you know? So they had suggested a treatment center called Harvest House. Harvest House is a long-term residential treatment center here in Ottawa.
Amazing.
They specifically deal with men. And I'm like, a year's a long time. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if I want to do a year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can find like a 4-month program. And I'm like, you know, looking to go to Anchorage downtown. I'm like, yeah, that would be a good idea. Not realizing like where it was, right? But my parents were like, no, like, you're going to a 1-year treatment program. That's it. That's all. Too bad for you. Suck it up, Buttercup. Thanks, Mom. Um, so I applied to Harvest House. Luckily, I was able to get in fairly quickly. They had an opening. I got accepted to the program. And that's like where I learned the 12 steps of AA, where I reconnected with faith. So my higher power I identify as Jesus Christ, um, and reconnected with that in my faith. And, you know, after a year, I just looked back and I'm like, well, am I really ready to go back to the world? I'm like, no, like, I feel worse after a year of recovery. Like, I feel more crazy. I was like, does that even make sense? But it made sense to me at the time. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stay. And let me tell you, this Harvest House is an amazing uh, aftercare program that I was able to manage to stay for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I destroyed everything. So I have a background in electronics engineering. I worked for the federal government for like 4 years before I screwed it all up and threw it all away in my addiction. Um, and like, I had nothing to go to. And I literally showed up at Harvest House with nothing, like broken, just 130-pound junkie with like a couple of bags to live out of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stay. Like, well, what are you gonna do? I don't know. Excuse me. They're like, do you ever think of being a counselor? I'm like, no. I'm like, maybe that's an idea. So I took some time to like, think about it, pray about it, and I felt like God was calling me to do it. So I'm like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna help people. So I started to study all of the educational requirements to get my certification, which took me 2 years to do. So I was at Harvest House for 4 years at that point, and managed to get my certification. So now I'm a Canadian certified addictions counselor
Awesome.
in Canada. I also managed to get my anger management facilitator certificate as well. So I'm a certified anger management facilitator. Um, I like to focus on um, conflict resolution and like relationships because, during my recovery. So I have two older daughters that I had mentioned when I first started this story. I lost their mom in it was 2015. So October 31st, 2015, she died of an overdose in Renfrew.
Sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, which I found out at a supervised visit.
Wow.
Yeah, which was like, I have my 4-year-old telling me instead of like the social worker telling me, "Hey, daddy, mommy's dead." What?
Oh my gosh.
Okay. I'm just thinking, like, maybe her parents just said that, and I'm like, but later on I found it out that God was actually true. I'm like, oh God.
Wow.
So yeah, unfortunately, she lost her life to substance use, which was super unfortunate for them, and it was not, it wasn't very good for me either. But I felt really bad for them. I made it through it sober, staying at Harvest House, but I found building that recovery community around me really helped to have like the support network that I needed to make it through sober. Because, like, you know, I had money, I had access to a vehicle. I could have just went and used if I wanted to, but I didn't. Right? Like, I gave my money to my friends, I gave my keys to my friends. I'm like, here, take it, don't give it back to me. Like, I don't want to see it
Yeah.
for at least a week. Just don't give back to me. Because, like, what I'm thinking right now is not a good idea. Um, so yeah, and that kind of solidified everything for me, built my recovery, helped me improve. Anger management really helped me because I didn't realize how angry I was, um, and how much anger I had built up inside of me, or how to let it go either. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to, like, put it on a piece of paper and make it work for me in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I find that for me now, that's like the biggest thing I kind of focus on for guys that come to treatment or come into the treatment center is their emotional trauma. I find that is one of the biggest kind of stumbling blocks for most people that come into recovery, is emotional trauma, or their, lack thereof emotional maturity, because we stop growing emotionally whenever we start using. So that's kind of been the focus for me, because that's what I do now. I'm a full-time addictions counselor for Harvest House Ministries here in Ottawa. I also have my own private practice on the side, so I have my own Facebook page,
Nice.
Corey Cluche Addictions Counseling and Support.
Nice.
So I try to recover out loud on social media.
That's awesome.
I put videos up, try to put a video every day called my Recovery Motivational Minute, trying to motivate people to,
Oh, that's awesome.
recover or get to recovery or where they're at for the day, or, give me a comment. I'll try and help you. Because I think that, you know, the stigma of addiction is kind of looked down on, frowned upon, not misunderstood, I think, sometimes. And I think that people are just afraid to recover out loud sometimes, and I don't blame them. I mean, like, I get it. I just lost that fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to be silent anymore. There's too many people out there hurting, too many people out there dying, too many people out there that are still sick that can get help. Um, and I went to recovery when I was 33.
Wow, yeah.
Right? Like, so, like, if I can do it, you know what I mean? Like, anybody can do it,
Oh,
no matter
definitely.
how old you are, where you're at, what's going on in life, and if you identify you having a substance use issue, because that obviously is the key to the first step, is recognizing that you have a problem, um, and being aware that you have a problem. It's taking that step to apply to those treatment centers or go to a detox, or whatever you can, wherever you are, your most local resource. Uh, you know, I found getting out of the valley for me, because there wasn't a lot of stuff at this point back then for recovery. I had to get out,
Yeah.
right? And I'm really happy to see Jerry and the grind and all of those guys kind of bringing that community really back to life. So props out to you guys. Keep up the good work. I'm really happy to see that. That's super super important. Um, you know, I'm really want to help those guys too. So like, I'm doing my part on that, and
Amazing.
trying to help anybody that comes from that point of view, and is willing to come to treatment, to set them up to, have a place to go if I can, right?
Yeah.
Not always can I do that, but yeah, I think that's what's most important for me right now, is to try and build that community, build the connections between networks or cities or wherever I am, and putting the people that need the help with people that have the help together. And I
Yeah.
think that that's something that I've been trying to do since I've been in recovery. Uh, Year 5, I was lucky enough to be blessed and meet my new wife, and got remarried in 2019. We went through heck to try and have kids, weren't able to do so. Tried for 4 years, prayed for 4 years, and then went through IVF, so in vitro fertilization. Um, we ended up getting 5 embryos, and on our third transfer, so two failed. The third one, we were able to conceive our first daughter, Rebecca. She was born December 8th, 2023. And because we were told we couldn't have children naturally, and we weren't able to do so. And lo and behold, they were wrong.
Yeah. I like how it was that three there, because it was the same thing too for my
And I
parents.
was
But
like, so Rebecca, I think, was, oh geez, I don't know, 6 or 8 months old when we found out she was pregnant again. Um, and March 28th, 2024, Annabelle was born. So,
nice. That's
we've got a
exciting.
newborn at home. She's like a month and 4 days old. And a toddler running around. She's like 17 months now. She just says everything.
Oh yes, and it goes by so quick.
You
They
got
get
to
so
really
quick.
watch what you say.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
uh,
They're
uh,
they're pretty
and
good
I
at
was like, oh gosh, did I just say that?
oops.
Whoops, don't say that. So yeah, no, and I owe it all to being able to get into treatment. So Harvest House has been a huge supporter of me and my family, and my recovery, and being the community that I'm able to build out around, and support that, um, and try to help other people to kind of figure out what that looks like for them.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Like from where you had started to now what you're doing and
Yeah, and I love where I am right now. Like, when I was back then, when I was messing around, dealing drugs, being an idiot, anybody could take everything away from me in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? Like, it just, okay, it's gone. Now nobody can take nothing.
mm,
God's given it all to me, not by my hand, but by His. So like, I've got, a nice apartment. I've got a vehicle. I've got a great job. All of these things. I've got, two wonderful little kids, a wonderful wife. All these great things, but it has nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, I'm part of it, but all glory goes to Him, because without that, like, I was their crying in my jail cell saying, you know, okay, God, get me out of this one. I promise I won't do it again. I didn't mean it then, but then he got me out. I'm like, oh, okay, crap. Now I'm gonna hold up my part, right? Now I'm gonna not do it again, right? So my oldest is 16. She's in grade 9 or 10, grade 10, Fellows High School.
Nice, right
on. And next one's 15 years old, so right underneath her, right? So they were like less than. My 16-year-old turned 1, and then her sister was born like 6 days later.
Little Irish twins.
All right, so and now I have Rebecca and Annabelle, so we've got all 4 of the girls. 2 older ones don't live with me, like I say, because of my decisions and choices when I was using. They live with their grandpa in Pembroke. He stepped in and took care of them. Like I owe him the world. You know, I made amends with that and let that all go a long time ago. Ask God for for his forgiveness for what I did to their mom, and hope her soul rests in peace, and that I'm able to help somebody get what I've got and teach them how to get it. And hopefully, God willing, that happens. You know, I'm not going to quit until that happens. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Here's to trying.
Yeah, exactly. Keep trying and
keep trying, right? So like, yeah, because I remember it was like, I tell that to the guys all the time that I talk to every day, and I remember what it was like to be you. They're like, how? Like, you just never forget where you came from, man. Don't ever forget where you came from. Yeah. If you forget the past, you're gonna repeat it. This is bound to happen, you know. And I'm excited to see a lot of guys that I ran the streets with, and they're like getting sober. I'm like, hey, right on, man. Good for you. Good to see you sober and alive. Like, I know we did some dumb shit back in the day, but it's good to see you sober.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things when you really get to start seeing that it's like, hey, it's cool to be sober because now.
Like, when I went to treatment, I went with a lot of people, and a lot of them are dead or in jail for long periods of time, and I see it a lot. Like clients that come and die, like it's sad. It's sad. Young men that don't need to die. Exactly. You know what I mean? So like, it's real now, for sure. Like it was then too, right? But it's worse, I think, now with everything, the way society is going, and the way the poison that's out there right now, because it literally is. That's what it is. It's poison people, because nobody knows what's in that garbage that people are giving to you out there. That's another thing I had to repent to and ask God for forgiveness, was all the people that I helped hurt, right? Like all the families I helped hurt. I don't know if people died because of what I sold them. I don't know, right? Like, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if they're still using, they got sober. I don't know, right? So that was another thing that I had to kind of like come to grips with, and kind of like, ask for forgiveness for sure. It was like being that guy. So now I'm like working at the other side of it to really make up for those years that I kind of threw away.
You're doing some really good work, it seems.
Oh, I don't know. I guess we'll find out when I get there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But even just like creating,
right? I gotta try though. Yeah, I gotta try.
exactly.
Right?
But being able to create like that space that like you needed to as well, and being able to focus on those things like the emotional side of stuff that you were talking about, right? Because a lot of men, it's hard. You can't be emotional.
It's hard. Yeah, like you have a lot of macho stigma that says you can't have feelings, you shouldn't have feelings, sharing your feelings, you're a sissy, you're a wussy, you're a woman, you know, like all that garbage.
That's not the case. You don't need to do that.
No, it's not. Actually, it's the exact opposite of that. Being open with your emotions makes you mature, makes you vulnerable. Being vulnerable makes you a man. Believe that or not, that's fact. I've learned that being in touch with your emotions is the best place to be. That openly communicating how you feel with another person is so freeing. Like I wish I could bottle it and like sell it, because it's like no other feeling in the world. How you can, like, you know, just communicate how you feel and be okay with it, you know, and just not to be scared or afraid of what people are going to think or going to say or going to do or anything. Just own it and be like, oh, it's good. Like, you
I
know,
read something the other day on the Daily Bread. It's like a Christian
yeah,
type
yeah,
of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. No, I read it quite a bit.
Oh, nice. So, was it yesterday? There was one. It was just talking about like allowing things to roll off onto God's shoulders.
Yeah. No, like I say, rediscovering my faith has been a big journey for me. It's a big part of my life. It is the center of my marriage. So Jesus is the center of my world. Um, and like, yeah, allowing God to take the things that I cannot control, being, you know, and really putting the steps of AA to work for me, and recognizing that I can't control those things, right? And just pushing it where it's supposed to go, I think is really freeing for me, right? And step 12 is like, you know, giving back to the people that are suffering, I think. And that's where I'm living there right now, you know, and I don't want to not live there, because I don't know, it's just, there's something about it that doesn't make me want to stop.
Yeah.
You know, this makes me want to keep doing it.
Yeah, it feels good for sure.
Well, I'm bound and determined to find another me. I know there's one out there.
Yeah.
I don't know where they are. I don't know who it is.
But we're gonna find you.
Yeah. You're gonna come to me, I promise. But for a good reason this time. No, but I keep trying, right? And I don't want to give up, because I know that like the people that helped me didn't give up, right? And I was a pain in the butt to deal with, right? Like I wasn't easy. I didn't make that job fun.
But they saw something in
Yeah,
you.
right.
And
Like
they
so,
cared.
like right, you know, and they showed me what God looks like to them, right? So like I try to do the same to other people. I try to, you know, live out what God gives to me to show them, right? To show them love, to show them mercy, to show them grace, to show them, you know, kindness, gentleness, right? And just trying to do that on a one-to-one every day. Trying to meet them where they're at, you know, wherever it is. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
You know, I don't expect you to be anywhere.
Yeah.
My expectations, you know, I got them down low.
Yeah.
You know, because when I start to expect things, it's dangerous.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So
having like a big expectation for something will only just kind of.
Well, right. Like, you know what I mean? I remember how vulnerable I was when I first came in. I'm like, if I would have expected that out of me, I probably would have like, get out of here, beat it. I would have ran or something stupid, right? So like, I'm trying to be very cautious and just take it easy, and you know, wait for them to be like comfortable and stuff, and then like, okay, now we can rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. We're just gonna look at it.
We're just gonna peel it back a little bit, okay?
We're just gonna look at the Band-Aid. We're gonna just examine the Band-Aid. We're not touching it.
We're just gonna take a look at it.
We're just
okay.
Gonna, maybe a little bit of oil just to get the lift going.
But I think that it's a good metaphor. Like that's what addiction is like. It's like a wound. It's like a cut. You know, like a deep wound that you need to kind of treat slowly, and you know, with time and with hard work and with effort, that it heals.
Yep.
Right. And I hope to continue to build my relationships with recovery communities all over the place. Um, I hope this opportunity gives me more opportunities to speak. I love to speak. I love public speaking. I've been public speaking for a long, long time. Um, I love to tell my story. I love to talk to anybody who will listen.
Yeah. Well, this is what it's here for too, and I think a lot of people are going to be excited to listen. And
yeah, I hope so. Like, I hope that this episode really spikes up some stuff for you on Purple Hummingbird. Like, I'm a real advocate. I'm a real supporter behind you for sure. Like, I definitely talking this up to my friends, to people in recovery. I've shared the link with people that aren't in recovery here. You need to listen to this. Anybody who will listen, I'll share it with.
Amazing.
So, like, yeah, I try to plug people that are doing it, that are out there, that are doing it out loud, that aren't afraid to be like, no, this is what I do. Oh, cool. Like, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, yeah, when I was given this opportunity, thank you, by the way, you know who you are. I was like, yeah, I'm all about that. I'm definitely gonna get in on that. Like, that's something I definitely want to do. And I'm so glad that I did this. I'm so glad that I was given the opportunity. Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you, Christina, for having me. This has been awesome, an awesome experience. This won't be the last one you do. I can guarantee that, because I'm telling all my friends, you need to come see this. You need to do this.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I got guys out there that are in recovery that are definitely gonna want to do this for sure.
The more stories, the better. You know, it's just like being able to have this, and like being bold for those who are no longer here, being bold for those who are still here, and being able to help them is a big part of why I started this podcast. And you have your Facebook page and all that.
Yeah, no,
so
kudos to you, man. It's definitely a resource that's needed, and definitely one that is lacking. You know, everybody out there has a story. I know that for sure. So I don't know if you're out there, you're watching this, you're paying attention, you saw it, you scrolled by it, you maybe even heard the first few minutes. The last few minutes are the most important, because if you're suffering, if you need help, if you even think you have a problem, reach out to somebody, get help. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to continue. You don't have to die. There is help out there for you. There are people like me, there are people like Christina. We can get you in touch with people that can get you help. Don't be afraid. It's not weak. Getting help is the best thing you'll ever do.
We need more, like, a round of applause. Yeah. Yay! Everybody. No, but thank you. There we go.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for being on this podcast.
No problem.
I look forward to having more opportunities, even having you on, like, in the future.
Yeah, we can do sure. Some check-ins, that kind of stuff. And anytime you want, anytime you need me, you just say the word. I'll be here for whatever.
Yeah, I'll hold you to that handshake.
For sure.
It's on video.
Guaranteed. No, you just let me know. Text me, message me, whatever you need.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll do anything I can. I'll bend over backwards to make it, to do whatever.
Yeah, same goes for you. Anything that's needed, because you've been working with Harvest House and all that stuff.
Yep.
So if any of the men need anything, let me know.
Yep.
Personal care items, clothing, all that
for
stuff.
Sure.
I got a bunch of stuff here I can even give you to take tonight if you want.
Cool.
But yeah, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it very, very much.
Of course. Thank you. So we do have a website. It's called www.purplehummingbird.com. There are available resources on there too as well. But also, if you have a story that you'd like to share, there is a submission form that you could reach out with us to, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But a big thing is we do have those resources that are available on there for mental health and addiction. specifically in the Canadian area. But if you are outside of Canada, just reach out to us and send us a message, and we'll be happy to help with that. All right. Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.